There is a construct in the English language, well, probably every language for that matter, but in the English language, it's called an oxymoron. We get that word from the Greek oxus, which means sharp or pointed or keen, and moros, from which we also get the word moron, which means foolish or stupid. It's basically a self-conflicting statement, such as definite possibility, or deliberate mistake, or original copy. Before we get to that, I should put a little disclaimer here for all of my videos. None of this is sponsored by any church. The opinions that are expressed here are my own opinions, based on my own experience, based on my own study of Scripture, and I do not claim to be a scholar at all. So I want to put, my church did not ask me to say that, but I just thought I would get that out there up front, because who knows what I might say at some point that somebody might not agree with. So back to oxymorons. There's an oxymoron that is gaining popularity in some circles today. God changes his mind. I'd like to take a moment and explain why that's an oxymoron. First, there's a plethora of scripture that addresses this directly, and some are scrolling across the screen now. God went to a lot of trouble, a lot of effort to explain that his nature is unchanging. But Scripture is not convincing for some folks, because people who believe this generally believe that a lot of Scripture is no longer relevant because God has changed his mind. So let's look at how God has described his nature. First, from the prophet Isaiah, I am the first and I am the last. And then in Revelation, I am the Alpha and the Omega, I am the beginning and I am the end. Not I was in the beginning and I will be at the end, but I am, which means, which is what Yahweh means, and that's the name that God gave himself. Now I would respectfully submit to you that this is because time itself is part of God's creation. In other words, God doesn't exist within time. Time exists within God. God is neither subject to nor slave to time as we are. The Creator is not subject to or slave to the creation as we are. We humans exist within time. We are four-dimensional creatures, 3 dimensions in space plus the dimension of time, and we change within those dimensions. We're born at a point in time, we grow older with time, we die at a point in time. We don't have a choice. Does God change with time? Was he born? Does he grow older? Created beings that exist within time change with time. But for a God that is not subject to time, change is illogical and meaningless. It's an oxymoron to say that someone who exists outside of time changes with time. You have to exist within time to change with time. Not that God couldn't change if he wanted to, but given the lengths to which he's gone to explain that he doesn't, it hardly seems likely. This is why God doesn't change. His mind or anything else for that matter. God is a rock, not a lump of Play-Doh that we get to mold and fashion into an image that pleases us. In my personal experience, people who want to believe that God changes his mind want a God who conforms to acceptable cultural practices of the day, which of course are constantly changing. Even hymn writers throughout history have expressed this, such as Thomas Chisholm's Great is Thy Faithfulness, where he writes, there is no shadow of turning with thee, thou changest not. I don't say this to convict anyone or because I think I'm personally better than anyone. There's only one person that I judge, and that's me. I know exactly what I deserve, and I would never attempt to negotiate with God about my sins. I know that I would be condemned were it not for his grace. What others do or think is between them and God.
God is my rock and my salvation. God is my life is my